Hi, this is Nick here from OnlyFabs, and I am really excited about Skirmish Season 4 with the ever-festive Kassai. Now we'll discuss the meta predictions, view, just because I patented it, and the equipment, the deck, what's core, what's not, what you can tune to your local meta, I guess, and how many coppers. Now stay tuned for that one. Okay, so expect Oldhim, expect OTK Viserai, and expect Icelander. I think Icelander will knock out Kano just because of Heart of Ice. Viserai, probably OTK instead of aggressive decks, just because of Oldhim being able to block out those aggressive decks, usually. Now, of course, there will be a plethora of other decks, but at least have these guys tested. Now the wheel style that I'm trying to answer always, it's also to get a flow of the deck. At this point I'm not even considering it, I'm just looking at Kassai and I've been playing a lot of Kassai, but in the end I think you always need to consider why am I playing these cards, what's good, what's not. Now, deck building restrictions, the interesting part there is the second swing payoff, at what point you are using 2-card hands, just because of the go again, right? And then are you always getting that second swing in? And if you're not getting it in, some cards aren't that good, right? Think Slice and Dice, for instance. You always play Slice and Dice, but if you don't have to go again, Slice and Dice is less useful. So if you draw it late, how do you get value of that? So for me, that's a deck building restriction, and I take it into consideration when picking cards. Now for the equipment, this will be your standard suit against whatever. This will be against Wizards, Icelander of course as well. We have AB3, don't go AB4, AB3, so that's Arcane Barrier and Courage of Blade Elf. Now back in the days I played Deep Blue, not so much anymore just because of Blood in her hand. You can still consider it, I guess, but I don't know what other equipment piece you would run. So this is just if you get enough coppers, Courage is the biggest discount. Same goes for Iceland, right? Then Viserai, OTK, something that's obvious. The dynamos are missing, right? You always play dynamos. That's the reason why you play Kassai, because of the mat value you can get from that one. Probably it's better to skip the bracers and do Nullrune Hood and bracers and have the dynamos in there. But if you are quite certain that it's an OTK Viserai, you can consider this configuration. Just because of the fact that you get 4 block during their go turn, and you have AB2 for Vexing Malice and Rosetta Thorn. Something to consider. I'm not saying that it's the best thing you can do, but it worked for me in one game. So, but that's is that playtesting one game? I don't know. It's interesting information. And for Kaya, I didn't think of this, but apparently Kaya can do some really ridiculous things. It's just one slot. You have one slot floating. The 10 are kind of fixed, and the last one, the 11th slot. Bring in the Gambler's Glove. Don't use the gold foils. Bring in the cheap ones, but they can be useful during the day. Especially if playing 6 rounds, right? Versus Oldhim, it's a consideration to play Gallantry Golds. Why? Because at your Blood on your Hands turn, you can push to more. Against Oldhim, in general, you want to have one big turn and a off turn, a big turn and an off turn. You use your arsenal as a way to set up more damage. Because they refresh, right? So each and every turn they have block 12 or whatever. So doing 12 every turn isn't helpful. Doing 8 and then 14 damage, just bring up some numbers, that will push to 2 damage. Now we just need 10 turns to kill the bastard. Alright, let's get into the deck. Now this is what I'm playing. This is after, I know, 4th or 5th iteration of an Everfest deck list. No, so it's probably the 4th iteration, and currently my OnlyFabs version 6. You're free to try it, and if you're thinking about cutting cards, then I'd say cut this. But let's go through the options first, and I'll use my mouse pointer. Yeah, I'm doing PowerPoint presentations. This stuff is the Gogans are mandatory, so we're not discussing those. Nourish is the ceiling is pretty high of that card. You know, if it connects, you can do it at the end of turn. It makes blood on our hands even more ridiculous. If you can finish up with a Nourish. All in all, I think it's too powerful to skip, but it's a card you can skip. Now into the swing, Iron Song Response, Out for Blood, and Stroke of Foresight. Especially like these four, just because they give +3 on your first swing. Now this is the deck building constrictions that I had in mind when I spoke about it earlier in the video. Why, if you're attacking for 2, they're not blocking, expecting any reactions, giving it +3 is pretty brutal, right? So even if you don't have to go again and you have a blue pitched, and for whatever reason you have Stroke and Out Blood, or 2 of those in your hand, that's a pretty big blowout if you're going to 5 or 8 and take a huge chunk of the life total away. Of course, Ultim can react to it, but other decks can't. So this is something that I like, and I think you should at least test it and see if you like it. Now you get the upfront damage, which is just a really cheap way to push through damage. Now you see on top of there, Slice and Dice and Push Forward. Again, they need to have Go again because they buff the second attack only. And Sharp Steel and Outland Skirmish are just cheap ones that can go on your first attack. Now think about breaking up the combat chain if you want to play a Sharp Steel or an Outland Skirmish in between the attacks. So you have, for whatever the reason, 3 attack or 5 attack, 5 attack. Maybe it's more useful to keep their equipment at bay, or maybe it's useful to bait out all the equipment, but they get a lot of value from Skull Cup maybe, so I'd front load the first attack as much as I can, and only in special niche cases I will break up the combat chain and play the Sharp Steel or Outlander Skirmish in between. Now for the blue cards, there is no Steelblade Shunted here. There should be a Steelblade Shunted here. It's just, this is the version that I'm running currently. But expect mirrors, right? Because I did the meta prediction, but you will expect a lot of Kassais. For whatever reason, I'm still thinking it's a niche hero, but it's an S tier competitor for sure. It's just how will the meta shape up completely? Will it be the S tier, or will it be a top A tier contender? So yeah, there should definitely be Steelblade Shunts in here somewhere. Minerva is an interesting card. Why? It says something like you cannot arsenal cards for the remainder of the game, but your swords get +3 if it hits late, because you're not connecting anymore. Everybody's blocking out as much as they can. Another reason why the first Out for Blood and Stroke are so cool. But yeah, I think the +1 is something that's I undervalued at first. So definitely like that, and you should definitely try it. So if we strip it to its core, you're looking at this. Probably into the swing. Some people would say it needs to be 2, or what is it? Swing into it, into the swing, in the swing. I always get the ridiculous name, but in the swing. You could play 2, not play Iron Song, Determination, because they have to block, etc, etc. So, but at least have some cards that are surprise factor damage. It shouldn't just be all the obvious non-damage or damage booster cards, and then they have perfect information. No, playing warriors, having some reprise effects, and surprising them with damage on hand. So now there's the numbers here next to me. So you've got probably 9 red slots, 2 yellow slots, and 4 blue slots to play with. Of course, you can mix up the yellow to be more red or be more blue, depending on your local meta. AB3 is really valuable for you, or you hate not being able to pitch or bad in managing quad reds or something, then add more blue. It's your party, it's your deck. Now, my maybe pile is Iron Strong Determination, Steelblade Shunt. Again, Steelblade should definitely be in the deck. And why isn't it in this video? Well, I'll be totally honest. I like push forward and I like Iron Song response blue. Iron Song's blue I use in this fringe case where I have 2 blue in hand and then 2 reds. One of them probably being a spoil, and then having this, they block it out, the spoils for, and then having an easy +1, easy, having the option of a +1, making connect, getting coppers. That's something that I really appreciate, and I'm maybe really aggressive. That's why I like Blitz so much over Classic Constructed. So getting to that end game where you're both 1 life, I don't like that much, but getting max value out of dynamos, Steelblade Shunt should be in there. So figure something out how you can get Steelblade Shunts in there. Iron Song Determination is a card. It gives Dominate and is useful versus Oldim, just to push through damage, just to get at least 3 coppers to play Blood on our hands. And you can maybe cut Nourishing for it, maybe cut Iron Song Response for it, or maybe cut Sharp Steel, because Sharp Steel is just 0+3, so that's actually an undercurve card, right? You need 4 damage-ish from red cards, so it's just something to take into consideration. My no pile, that's my no pile. I don't look cash in anymore. First iteration it was in the deck, but Blood on Hands is so flexible with the amount of corpses that you can use that you can't really afford to sacrifice 4 coppers just to draw 2 cards. So that one is out. Warrior's Valor, I tried it because it's quite cute with Blade Runner. You just attack, if it connects, hey, you get your free go again, and else you just Blade Runner it and it's some sort of +3. I didn't like it, was too expensive. Same goes for Second Swing. The other cards now are just cheaper and do comparable damage, Slice Nice. And then I'm looking at the other cards and like, they bring more to the table, like push forward, or they are surprise damage. Again, you're a warrior, you need to keep your opponent guessing. Sigil, not so useful anymore. Driving Blade, it's so expensive. If you have a 12 blue count deck, then maybe, but then there are other cards that I'd rather play. And then Twinning an Oath, they've been discussed to death on the Discord, and other cards just do more damage. Of course, you can go in Blood of Her Hands and can do ridiculous, crazy stuff, especially if they block. And maybe there's a world where you have 1 Oath of Steel, but then you need specific card combinations. And Flesh and Blood is a synergy game, right? And if the card only synergizes with 1 card in your deck in a specific case where you have 2 other cards, you lost me there. So for some people, it's been good, or they have been advocating that it's useful, but I'm not seeing it, so that's just me. Now, this will differentiate the okay Kassai players and the good Kassai players, and I've made a larger piece of the art because, oh man, it's so good. I got distracted by the art, but yeah, this is Blood on Her Hands. This is the good card of the deck, the reason why it's potentially an S tier. And now it's a quite flexible card. So with 2 coppers and go again, I visualized it. So this is just a quick summary to go through it. You have options, and that's the interesting part. If you don't have go again or the pitch, vary the modes accordingly. Is it +1 or +2 on 1 sword? I think you think about a ton of D-reacts, non-attack actions versus attack actions. it gets messy, but I try to visualize it in the following way. So you have 6 coppers. That's easy, right? Sacrifice all of them. Well, maybe not. Maybe not, because if you have go again, you can have 5 coppers, and that 1 copper, if it's the difference between 3 and 2 and 4 and 3 is, it's there. So of course you can hit one saber with +3 or +2 and the other with 0. But yeah, the DPS meter with just Blood in Hand is 12 for 6 copper. Now it's 10 for 5 copper without go again, because you have to cut a go again. This one needs to be there, right? So I was confused a bit. No, I'm confusing myself. Oh, I heard itself in confusion. You need the go agains, right? So you can attack twice with both weapons, and then you have one weapon that has +1. This one's also pretty straightforward. You just got the +1 again. Now attacking for 8 doesn't seem so spicy, right? So are you using Blood in Your Hands with 4 coppers and no go again in your hand? I don't know if you've already cracked Courage, it's in your arsenal, or you got it from Minerva and you're just using a blue pitch. Then I do it like this, definitely just to bait out as many cards as you can from their hands, especially if the arm is gone, right? And they have to block with attack actions. So 3 coppers without go again, that's probably this configuration. So it's go again on the first saber, which can also attack twice, and it got +1. So that's 3 and 3, that's 8. Still from 1 card, that's quite substantial, right? And with a yellow pitch, this can be arranged because of the discount, of course, on your second attack. And it's just a second attack, but I'm assuming you have already familiarized yourself with Kassai. And now 2 coppers. This actually is a mode that I think will pop up just because of, if you're late game, the first Blood on Your Hands didn't kill it, or they've been trying to starve you of coppers. Well, that can possibly happen because you should have chipped them down, right? So you have the coppers. This is the second Blood on Your Hands, and just play it without as a source of go again, so you can actually attack twice, resetting dynamos, generating coppers, which you won't use anymore, but it's a cheap way to get go again. Actually, now that I think about it, this one should actually, of course, be +1, right? So you attack once, and then that's 3, and it has go again, and you aim it at your first sword, and you attack for 3 and then for 2, which is for free, right? So that's just a red pitch. And Courage Crack, yeah, I've mentioned it here, but that's kind of ridiculous, right? It's just a red pitch and Blood on Your Hands, and that can actually push to 3 and 2 damage, totaling 5 for the DPS meter. Sorry for the confusion, but let's get through the DPS meters. So that's 12, 10, 8, still 8 with 3 coppers, or 5. And actually this is interesting, right? So you do 8 in both cases, just because you give +1 and go again to the weapon, which can attack twice. So that's 1 saber attacking twice for 3 and then for 2. And in this configuration, you're actually sacrificing additional copper, but you're spreading your attacks wider and baiting more cards from them, from their hands. So the difference between a 2 attack and a 2 attack and 1 4 attack is significant, right? Because of how many cards you are required to block with. Now, for a more interesting recipe, and that's why I added the little sabers. If you have go again in your hand, especially if it's a glint and quicksilver, now you can vary with the modes. And if we see our DPS meter, of course we can have +1 on both the one-handers, and you can let them attack twice. So those are 4 coppers at least, and then you need go again on your first saber so you can attack freely without worrying about your action points. Of course, you still need a blue pitch, and I wrote down here a red pitch if it's not glint, right? So you got spoils for, or let me see, what's the name? Blade Runner. Same goes for 4 copper. In this case, you are still given +1 and go again to 1 saber, and requiring 2 coppers just to give both attacks, or both swords, the ability to attack twice. So you get 4 attacks in, and the difference in DPS is dropping now, right? So I didn't mention 6 with go again, because you, at that point, if you have 6 copper and you have go again in your hand, and I'd leave that 1 copper laying around just for the option of your second blood on our hands. Now 3 coppers with go again. In this case, it's again 1 weapon gives go again, and both of them can attack twice, and 2 coppers would go. Now, this one was actually pretty tough to figure out, because at this point I was like, okay, so you probably give +1 to both attacks, or are you using that card not as go again, or as a means of attacking twice? You need more cards to get this one working, so it's probably just +1/+1. At this point, I'd probably try an arsenal and squeeze in another copper. But what's most likely happening is that you are not connecting because they are low in life total, and I just arsenal this glint and just use go again twice, or go again once and +1 on the weapon. The difference between 3 and 2 versus 3 and 3, this one, there's so many more variables to take this to a total sum, right? Saying what's the best option here. So I probably leave that one for you guys to experience yourselves. I'm just trying to state out that Blood on Hands is so flexible. You need to take all the options into consideration before you block out with your cards, and also think if you have enough pitch. I almost ruined my day thinking, oh, I can give a go again, attack twice, and I was like, oh, this red card, that's not sufficient pitch, right? If it's if I have more pitch, I can attack twice and go again with the weapon. Maybe, oh, that's a nice exercise that we can do together, right? So if I use 2 coppers to give, so I need an additional blue here. I can actually swing twice with the weapon. So in this case, I should probably pitch this just so I can attack once, there, yeah. So I need blue, yellow pitch actually. So I will have 1 floating, and I can attack with this weapon, because of this mode and this mode. So that's actually, that's funny, right? So even if you have go again, you still need to take in consideration all the modes and all the other cards in your hand, and if you have additional pitch value or not. Because a red card, this situation will change again entirely. So now I'm really rambling, so I should finish this video. Don't get discouraged by the naysayers. Test that card. Even though I said Oath of Steel is, you shouldn't test it, at least try it. Or I said Sigil, I don't like it. Well, if you always get beat out by 1 or 2 ninja players, or Ira, for instance, or you are getting wrecked by Canis, at least try it. I think it had more use in Skirmish Season 3, but again, test that card. Focus on locally played heroes because, okay, if you go to bigger events, just follow meta reports, and if you know 1 or 2 guys who are always bringing in Ira because they don't have any other decks or they just like the easy mode playstyle of it, be prepared to face those Iras, and if it's a Kodachi train, maybe even try Sigil. Don't tune a deck based on one game. If you get wrecked by a guy and say, hey, can we after this army try a couple more games? I'm trying to figure out this matchup. But don't go and changing around all other cards and thinking that the solution is different cards. Maybe it's a different playstyle or taking other choices. Play what you like, enjoy the game, and not the result. See you guys.